Welcome back to the Stay Broke Podcast. Today we're sitting down with Mayor Jessica Daniels Harrison, whose career path runs through education, nonprofit leadership, and now executive leadership in a rapidly growing community. And this isn't a political conversation. It's about systems, service, and the realities of leadership that every business owner can relate to. Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I know you're new to the position. How do you like people to refer to you? Are you Mayor Jessica?
Yeah, I'm just Jessica.
Just Jessica?
Yeah, I'm just Jessica, but I prefer, Mayor Jessica, not like Mayor Harrison or Madam. Just Jessica. Yeah, okay. I'm a roundaway girl. I'm pretty easy.
Perfect. So on Tuesday mornings, we always do these interviews, and on the way here, or like my kids, that while I'm taking them to school, I drop them off and I come straight here. Mm-hmm. So it's my 9-year-old and my 7-year-old. Mm-hmm. So they're always asking about who's on. They know that we had the mayor of Wake Forest. So now that they're learning there's a mayor of Zebulon, okay. They're like, oh, Zebulon has a mayor too. And my 9-year-old asked me, why does every town need a mayor? And I was hoping you could answer that for him.
That's a good question. Your 9-year-old is stretching me this morning. Every town needs a mayor because the mayor's job is to be the voice for the community and for the leadership board, the leadership of municipalities, towns, villages. And so as each town has a mayor, that person stands as the face and the voice of their community to get things done. And so that's why we all need one, because I believe each community needs someone advocating for what's best for that community.
And who are you advocating to? The governors, senators? Like, is that your job? You're kind of the go-between?
Yeah, honestly, you're advocating for, public-private partnerships, government, state, county, federal, everything. You're advocating for your community on so many different levels to bring the resources that the community needs.
Okay. And I'm asking this because, like I said, I don't want to talk politics, but yeah. I think, what does a mayor do? Everybody hears mayor, everybody sees mayor. What does a mayor do? And I think that's an important question to answer. And that's something that we do want to talk about, is like, who should be going to you? When should they be going to you? You're a resource for the community, for small businesses, and making sure that people know that. But now that we got that out of the way, hopefully that satisfies his need for understanding everything.
Yeah, you have my number. Just call me if it doesn't.
So we just like to start off with, who are you? Where'd you come from? And kind of an abbreviated version of what got us here today.
Okay, well, I am Jessica. And, so as a lot of people like, why do you have 3 names? So Jessica Daniels Harrison. And the reason why I keep my maiden name, which is, I was Jessica Daniels before I was married to my amazing husband. I was Jessica Daniels, and I use my maiden name because I am from Zebulon. And no one knows Jessica Harrison because it's where I was raised. And you have a lot of times where people go and they'll say, Jessica Harrison, Jessica Harrison. People are like, no, who's that? I had one of my middle school teachers, someone was talking to her about me, and she was like, now I don't know that girl. And then when she saw me, she said, Jessica Daniels. And so I am Jessica Daniels, born and raised in Eastern Wake County, in the Zebulon, Wendell area. And I've, just been here my entire life. I love my community. I did leave for a short time to go all the way to Rocky Mount for college. Shout out to North Carolina Wesleyan University. That's the college where I went as an undergrad and where I met my husband. And now, now we're back in the community that pretty much made me, lay the foundation on who I am, and just trying to do my best to lead my community to a place where everyone that lives there, everyone that passes through, but everyone can take pride and take ownership. And so my vision for leading our community is to lead us into a place where everyone can call it home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you took a different path than a lot of the people we have on here. You didn't start with an entrepreneurial journey, but you're getting into that now. So let's get a little bit into your background. What'd you go to college for? What was your passion? Like, what were you looking for?
So my passion has always been education. And in education, I started off in college. I have a degree in psychology, and a master's degree in educational leadership, and a few certifications and all that stuff. I kind of am an education junkie, but don't tell my kids. They're like, Mom, read this book with me. But so right now, I took the path of education. I was a teacher fresh out of college. I taught special education for a number of years before I quickly realized that classroom teaching is not my thing. And that's okay, because it takes a very special person. Shout out to all the teachers and administration out here in the world. We love you guys. Thank you for taking good care of our kids. And so that didn't work out for me. It wasn't really my thing. So then I went to higher education. Absolutely loved higher education. I worked in higher education for a number of years, and then I went in the traditional higher ed. Then I went on to work with adult learners. That was my thing. I loved working with adult learners, those that, they're like, I still have life left. I still have purpose. I want to do something different. I want to go back to school. I found so much joy in pushing people to their purpose in higher education that it now is what I do full time. So my husband and I actually own a business that, we help nonprofit and leaders become whatever they want to be. We help develop them. We help develop leaders. And so in doing that, I am still an educator, because what I do in every single role that I have is I educate people. I educate them on, what do you need to reach your goals? What do you need to what type of resources do you need to get to where you want to go and to truly walk in the purpose that you were designed to walk in? And so that's what I do.
So last week we had a pharmacist on that started multiple business in the pharmaceutical industry. And one thing he said that's kind of stuck with me from the interview is that pharmacists are one of the only people and employee that get paid for what they do, not what they know. Mm-hmm. They get paid to count pills and distribute medicine. They don't get paid for all the knowledge that they have. And just hearing you talk now, I think teachers are the same way. They get paid for what they do. They get paid to babysit our kids. Mm-hmm. They're not getting paid in America anyway for what they know, the amount of schooling they have to go through, all the education that they have, everything they have in their brain that they're trying to get across to the kids. That's not why they're getting paid. And it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's very true. You have some amazing educators out there that have worked very hard. We have our national board certified teachers, administration, but while they do get paid for what they do, I am hoping and pushing that they will soon get paid for both.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So after you left teaching, where'd your path go?
When I left the classroom, my path led me to residential director. So I was like the house mom of a residence hall over a college campus. And that was very interesting. That was, it was actually one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had. And it was because, I was surrounded by these young minds that thought they knew everything. So I was I was the residential director for our freshman campus, and they, you can't tell, first year of college, they're out of the parents' house. They know it all. There's nothing. And so I thoroughly enjoyed having the opportunity to help them grow. Even when you ran into those that knew everything, there was always something that they would come back. And so I kept my door, I had an open door that they knew that they could come and talk to me or ask me anything. And doing that really led me into knowing that my purpose was to help people reach their full potential. And so in everything I do, that is my goal.
Okay. In today's age, it's so different from when we grew up, and it was education. And now the script is completely flipped, and it's like, don't go get an education. It's not worth it. It's too expensive. But you have a unique perspective. What's your take on all of that?
Well, as someone that has a mortgage and student loans, I will say that there are a lot of avenues. You know, while I am an educator and I'm an advocate for education, there are so many different ways to be educated now. You know, that doesn't mean that, you know, and I have 3 kids. And honestly, I don't know if all 3 of them are going to want to go to college. Now, they have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have some type of, not just a plan, execution. I think that's the piece that a lot of times we get stuck on, is the execution piece. Like, you have this amazing plan. So my goal right now with my kids is they have to have a plan. It doesn't have to be higher ed. It doesn't have to be college, but it has to be something that's going to, you know, help fulfill them. That's going to bring some money in and pay some bills, you know, because let's be honest, you know, you have to do that. And it doesn't have to look like what it traditionally looked like for me. And so I am an advocate for education, but I am also an advocate for doing what's best and what feels best for whoever the person is. When I look at my kids, I think, I don't know if they'll all want to go to college, and I'm not going to force any of them, or, you know, kind of how with us, like, you go to college, you graduate from high school, you go to college, your suitcases are packed after graduation. And so that's not my, you know, my husband and I talk to our kids now. They're 12, 11, and 8. And we talk to them now about, you know, what do you want to do? You don't have to go to college, but you have to have a plan. You have to have some type of, all of our kids are entrepreneurial spirits. You know, over Christmas break, they're creating logos and so I don't know what they'll do, but all I know is that they have to have a plan. So whatever that looks like, we'll work with them. I just believe that we're in a day and age now that you just have to do what's best for you. And that might not look the same as what someone thinks it should look like. Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're an advocate for self-improvement, not degrees.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And as someone with several degrees, you wouldn't think that, but, well, number one, I know how much I have in student loans. Right. And so I would never encourage anyone on this planet to do that. Okay. Yeah. My goodness. And then just, you know, I have a degree in psychology, which I think I've used my psychology degree more than anything. And then a master's in educational leadership. And I'm not really doing like exactly, although I use my psychology degree just in everyday conversation. I want people to realize that degrees are amazing and they're great and they could put you ahead in the job industry, but you have to do what is tailored and feels right for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. The psychology part of it, I keep saying that of all the classes I've taken, the psychology classes that I took and I dove into, I found the most useful, and they're the ones I use on a daily basis. But I didn't get a psychology degree. I went and took psychology classes at a community college.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they were better than any other class that I've had as far as like helping me as an entrepreneur. So it's been good. You have to learn, everything's about people and interacting with people and understanding people, body language, all these things. Mm-hmm. And that's what psychology teaches you. It's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. The study of human behavior. My grandmother would always look at me when I was younger and she'd say, "Stop looking at those people like that. Why are you looking at them like that?" And I'm like, "Because I'm watching, studying them." It used to make her so bad. She's like, "Jessica, you just standing in the corner." And I'm like, "I'm just, scoping it out, Grandma. We're all good." But yeah, I've always just really, because I like building relationships. It's my superpower. I'm a relationship builder. That's actually what we do in our company. We teach leadership through relationship building, and that degree has helped me tremendously in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're talking about your kids, thinking about my oldest daughter, from the time she was like 9, she was dead set on going to Ivy League college, and she had the ambition and the grades to do it. And then, she found her passion as a teenager when she was about 16 and started jiu-jitsu. She actually just flew to Portugal. She's going to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championship for the second year in a row. And we'll have to see how she does this year. She got second last year in Portugal and then won the Brazilian championship last year. So like she's chasing this, and she's accepted that like she has to have a plan. She has to have a plan A and a plan B.
Yes.
Because right now there's no money in it. And she's learning about personal branding, but she accepted that this is what I want to do for the time being. And in the meantime, she interned for us for a couple summers and found her passion in sports photography. So now she's able to do that while she's traveling. So it's guiding the kids and like helping them, like you said, follow their passions, but have a plan. You gotta have a plan B. That's something I've always said to her.
C, D, E, F. Go through the alphabet.
So after you left the college, what was next?
After I left the college, what was next? It was entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I left the college and then I left and went into entrepreneurship and politics at the same time.
Okay.
Kind of stumbled into the politics part, honestly. And then I actually left higher ed to focus on our business full time. And throughout that time, I became on the board of commissioners. And so they kind of merged together, and I've been doing that ever since.
Okay. I know you spent some time in the nonprofit sector. What were you doing there?
So then there's this nonprofit sector that came in kind of after. So full-time entrepreneurship got a little scary for me. Okay. So when I left higher ed and I came home because someone needed to focus on the business full time. And so that person became me. And, shout out to all my entrepreneurs, because it is not for the faint. Okay. No. I was faint at heart. I got into it and it was like, whoa, okay. Number one, if you don't work, you don't eat. Okay. If you're an entrepreneur. Number two, it just came at us really fast. And it came so fast that I didn't have all the tools, nor was I expecting it to come as fast as it did. And when it did, I was like, okay, never mind. This is too much, because I didn't really have a plan. I just wanted to do it, you know, and wasn't sitting down with experts in entrepreneurship, but was just like, we got this. We didn't got this. We didn't. It was horrible. It was great. I was able to set up our businesses and do all the things, but it came with, entrepreneurship comes with such a big price. And I, at that time, just was not ready and was not expecting for it to happen. So when we had a nonprofit where we supported marriages and families, and we still have that nonprofit.
Okay.
And so we were doing that full time. We were, doing coaching certifications. I was a life coach, and then my husband and I would coach those that were wanting to get married or that had been married and needed some support. And that is a very, very busy business.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite realize how needed it was, how the industry needs more people to help families stay together. And that's what we were doing. That's what we continue to do. And so it startled me a bit. And so I went back to work.
Okay.
I was like, husband, you can do this. I'm going back to work. I'll do this part-time. And so I went back to work into the nonprofit, because I'm very familiar. I'm a nonprofit expert. So I went back into the nonprofit world and was director of operations for a little over 2 years. And during that time is when I ran for mayor and won. Yay. And that is when I said, well, I can't really be a full-time mayor and also be a full-time employee on someone else's clock. But I can be a full-time on my own clock, because I can adjust my schedule how I need to, and show up for my community. And so we decided that, I'm a nonprofit expert. I'm going to do that. And so our business became a little more broad, where we had leadership training business. Now we have taken our business to another step, where we are nonprofit development company as well. But it's it's literally what I've been doing. I've just been doing it for a specific company. Now I'm doing it as a consultant in my own company. Yeah.
So let's back up to the first try as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Like what, so you decided you were going to go all in on it and it kind of took off. What were the struggles that you were having that made you start to second guess it? So let's back up to the first try as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Like what, so you decided you were going to go all in on it and it kind of took off. What were the struggles that you were having that made you start to second guess it?
Keeping up, honestly. And again, it just happened at a point where I didn't really expect for, you say, okay, I'm going to give this my full time and capacity. And you kind of just put it out there like, hey, we're doing this. And it hit way faster than I expected it to. And, we were getting calls and we were getting bookings and people wanted coaching. And I was like, oh, and I just kind of lost grip of like scheduling, of how to properly do things. And it was coming at me so fast that I didn't have time to do what I stopped working for, which was research, take classes, understand business models and business planning. I didn't have the opportunity to do that because when I kind of put it out there, it was out there. Yeah. And so what I would recommend for any business owners is before you put your business out there, you have your stuff in order. Like you do it in the right order. You don't even mention it if you're not ready to start taking clients, because that's what I did and it kind of set us back. But now we're better. Yeah. Okay.
We had another guest on here that said that in his experience, the people with the higher education, once they start to get like master's level, that they're not as good at being an entrepreneur. They can be a good business person, but it's because they have a real grasp on risk and risk management, and it causes them not to want to go past a certain point. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes,
you agree with
like
that?
Risk, once you learn that like risks are risky, risks are risky, it kind of makes you take a step back, and stepping out and just doing it is a little more intimidating when you can like look and see, well, this could fail, this may not go right, I don't really know about that. And so I agree with that wholeheartedly. But one thing about my plan, about our plan, is that we decided just to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And the next steps that we're taking is to ensure that whatever we're doing moving forward, it makes sense and it's well planned out. And so that's how we've been able to rebrand and relaunch. Okay. Yeah.
So how long of a period were you running that, your own business before you went and found another job?
2 years.
2 years.
2.5 years. Yeah.
Okay. During that time, like, I'm sure it was a back and forth struggle to decide, like, is this what we want to do? Do we want to stick with it? Am I trying hard enough, or do I need to push it aside? Like, what kind of conversations were you having either with your husband or with yourself that you decided, like, we need to step back, rethink this?
Well, it was really more along the lines of, okay, this is kind of spiraling at this point. I wasn't able to keep up with kids and other obligations, and then now being into the political world. And so it was like, okay, well, how can we take a step back without dissolving? And so we were able to take a step back by kind of, contracts ending. And so once the contract ended, we just went and pick up another one. Okay. And so we were able to scale back without dissolving by really making sure that we had capacity for what we were doing. I think capacity is one thing that sometimes as entrepreneurs we can overstack our plates, because we're like, no, we got to go out here and get it because the getting's good. Yeah. And sometimes we don't stop and realize that whatever product, whatever thing you're selling, if someone came to you before, then you may just have to take a chance on them coming back, because you really can't say yes and you can't do everything. You can't take every client that walks through the door. I had to learn that. And once we were able to learn that, then we were able to say, okay, this is our capacity. And we were able to move forward with a successful business once we learned what capacity looked like for both of us.
Right.
And those were the conversations. Like, what does capacity look like? What is this? How does this fit into our family? Because my number one priority is my husband and my kids. Like that, nothing goes before that. Nothing. And so how do all of these different pieces in my life work together so that they're my priority, but I'm not putting so much on my plate that I don't have capacity to carry it. And so once I learned the art of that and had those conversations with myself and my husband, we were able to create a plan that worked for our family.
Yeah. And if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, then when you decided to walk away and go back to work for somebody else, like clearly that's not going to leave your mind. So were you working on your business plan like that whole 2 years that you were away, like waiting for the right moment to be like, all right, it's time to relaunch and do this the right way?
Yes, the entire time. When you're a full-time entrepreneur and then you go back and you work for someone else, that's tough.
Yeah.
That is tough. Even working in a company that, respects autonomy, you still have those times where you're like, but I can do this. Like, why? What am I doing? And in that, it wasn't about anything but me and my ability to know what I was doing, because I knew what I was doing. And so the relaunch has just come at a time. It came at a time where we were so confident in our ability to do what we already knew how to do. It was just a matter of sometimes you have to take a step back to be able to move forward and to see how to move forward. And that's what we did. We took a step back. We looked at everything, and now we know what to expect, so to speak. You never really know. And now we are better prepared to execute in a way that won't terrify me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you keep from losing yourself during that time where you're working for somebody else? Because I know from my experience, like when I went through that same thing after 2008 and I made a decision to shut down my business and go to work for the state, it was just like during that time I was there, I completely lost myself and it was not a good time for me. Like, how would you do to keep from losing yourself during that time?
I committed myself to continuing to work on my dream. Just because I had gone back to work for someone else did not mean that I was going to lose sight of what I knew I wanted to do and what I knew I could do. I gave as much as I could, and I won't even say I gave my 100% because I know I didn't, because I was still thinking about, I know that I have this game plan for myself. And so I did give as much of myself to this job, but I couldn't lose myself in it. And so I was intentional about continuing to work on my dreams, continuing to work on my projects. My husband and I have this humongous dry erase board in our garage where we constantly are working and updating, our plans and how this is going to work. And so ensuring that I always made time for my dreams was the only way that I didn't lose myself in working for someone else.
So you keep mentioning your husband, and that's something that I talk about too with my wife, is like, how important is it for you to have the right partner for all of this to work?
How important is it? I'm trying to find the best word, but I really don't have it, but it is extremely important. Yeah. It is extremely important having the right partner. Even when we decided, okay, it's time for one of us to come out of work because someone has to focus on these businesses if it's going to be successful. It's all about conversation and having someone that understands and supports the vision. There's really nothing that I do, or all of the businesses, because we're serial entrepreneurs, but in everything that we do it together. And we do it together because we have vision alignment. The things that I'm passionate about, even if it's not something he's passionate about, he understands the alignment because we're partners. So he may not be passionate about speaking and inspiring women. That's not his thing, but there is an alignment because he understands that it's my passion. And he is an encourager. And so we are able to find those things that make us work, that make our businesses work by being in alignment with each other. And most importantly, we're in alignment with God because we are true believers in Christ. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's something we talk about a lot here because it's like finding that right partner and having that, like you said, alignment is something that's key in propelling each other forward.
Yes.
And understanding each other's passions and knowing that like you said everything there. That was perfect. It's all the stuff that I keep trying to say. So that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So you stumbled into politics. How did that happen? What does that mean?
Oh my goodness. I really need you to understand when I say stumbled. Okay. Stumbled. So check this story, okay? So I was standing on the porch at my mom's house, and there was this guy. I hope he gets to hear this video because I tell the story all the time. And there was this guy walking down the road with his dog, and he was campaigning. And I'm like, what is happening right now? What is going on? And so he came up, on my mom's porch, and he was telling us, I'm running for town commissioner. This was in 2020, maybe something around that time. And he was like, I'm running for town commissioner. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even know what a commissioner was at the time. Okay. Like I'd seen stuff, but I didn't know. And so he said, I'm running. I said, okay, you have our vote. We talked to him for a minute. You have our vote. And a few weeks later, the same person, I did some research and I was like, can you tell me more? And so he sat down and he told me what a commissioner did. And I was like, okay, cool. And so maybe a few weeks later, he reached out to me. He said, hey, here's an application. We have an open seat on our board because one of our commissioners just got elected as mayor. And so there's a seat and we're opening applications. And I was like, all right, cool, no problem. I've done 1 million applications. How many applications have we done? And just been like,
I'm not going to hear anything from that.
Okay, whatever. Did the application, filled it out, turned it in, got some help on it from a former higher ed student, checked over this for me, all the things, and submitted it. 6 people submitted applications for that particular appointment. Went up, I did a 5-minute speech on why I wanted to do this. Everything was great. 6 people went up. Next meeting, 2 of those 6 people were nominated. I was one of the 2. Then there was a tie, and the current mayor had to break the tie, and he voted for me. And then I was a politician. And I was like, what? It happened so fast, and it was the most unreal thing that I had ever experienced. And so now I'm into this realm. It was literally, this happened the last day that I was on my job in higher ed. So I had left higher ed to focus on my business, did this application and, whatever. And that's how it happened. So it just so happened that the day that I was appointed was my last day on my job.
Yeah.
And so I stumbled into politics. And so I've been in politics for, a few years now. I stumbled in then. I will never forget going in like, oh my goodness, I have really just got to stop doing random stuff. Get your life together, lady. And so walking,
I feel that.
And that's really was like I tell my husband and my mom, my best friend all the time, like, y'all got to stop just letting me do random stuff. Next time I have an idea, tell me no.
I've said that.
Just sit me down and say, listen. But they never do. They keep encouraging the madness. And so here I am. And so we came and I was the commissioner, and I kept I was overwhelmed with so much information. And so I kept getting people like, you're going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. You got it. And every time I saw someone, that's what they said. And so I started to feel that anxiety a little bit, like, oh, this is too much. What am I doing? And I'll never forget, I went to a conference in Wilmington, I think. And I walked in the room, and there was this meeting, and there was a bunch of people in the room my age, looked like me. It was a BMO meeting. And in that moment, I was like, okay, settle yourself. You've got this. And the very next time someone looked at me and said, you're going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, I said, but I'll never be dehydrated. And no one has ever said that to me again. And now, now I lead and I'm in the political world. And now it's more about education. Right. I'm an educator. Now I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel anxiety. I feel like I am being educated on a lot of things that a lot of people aren't educated on. And as an educator, it's my responsibility now to go out and educate my community and those that are not in my community on what it really takes to live and to have a community that's thriving and flourishing. And so now I'm still an educator, but in a different space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've always struggled with is taking on positions where I feel like I'm being put in a box. Like for the military, for example, when I was in the military, I was great at doing my job when it was time to do my job. The other 25 hours of the day, but the rest of the time, there's so much time where you're sitting around not doing anything. And that's what I wasn't good at. And it was being put in this box, being told what I had to do on my time, how to think on my time. And I feel like the higher education system's a little bit like that. And now you're moving into politics where they try and put you in a box. Like, how do you deal with that? Or like, do you see it that way?
I don't. I'm a very not in the box kind of person.
Right.
I don't see it that way because I feel like as we are growing, as times are changing, that there's not going to be a way to do things if we don't do it outside of the box. Being inside of the box is cool and it's safe, but at some point you got to take some risk. And when you're confined to the box too much, the opportunities can pass you by. I am not going to let opportunities pass our community by because I'm sticking into the box. Now, I am going to stay in the box in the realms of general statute and legal requirements.
Sure.
I won't go that far outside the box, but I try to think about things in a way that won't confine me, because if I'm confined, then my community can't grow and I can't be the leader that I need to be in a space that is blooming with possibilities.
Right.
And so box is good in certain times, in certain areas, in certain positions, but when you're leading and growing in a space that I'm in, you have to be able to know when to be in the box and when to color outside the lines a little bit, as long as you stay within legal requirements and general statute. Just want to put that out there.
So you're fine with kind of pushing the limits and not worried about upsetting people, or like you're good with that?
Yeah, that's not my testimony. Have you met my mom? We push I am. I don't really. You're never gonna make everyone happy.
Yeah.
It's always. I don't care how good you think you're doing or what you think you're doing. It can be the most amazing thing in the world. There's always going to be someone that has a problem with it. I remember I wrote a story about my husband. It was like our anniversary or something. I wrote a story about how we met and all this stuff. And it was beautiful. I was getting all these, this is so beautiful. And there was one lady who was like, I don't know, your tone just didn't seem like you really. And I was like, what? I was like, this was a beautiful story. And so that really helped me understand that there's never going to be a decision that I make as a leader that everyone in the room is happy with. And I have to be okay with that. One thing I'll say to leaders, especially those in the public eye, just don't read the comments. Don't stay away from the comments. Just stay away. It will, and I don't think a lot of times, that's why I'm so big on education, because there is a lot of commentary with a lack of understanding in education. And if some people took time to become more educated, then it sometimes it's not going to matter, but at other times maybe it'll turn down some of the negative commentary once people understand what it takes to do some of the things that we do on a daily basis.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to touch on a sensitive topic, and you can answer me or not, but with our climate in this country right now, like, everything plays into everything, whether it's, being a female, being black, anything like that. And it's from the outside. I think a lot of people have the wrong perspective of North Carolina. I think we live in a great state and we have lots of opportunity. Do you think that, when I'm researching you, it's like she's the first female mayor of Zebulon. She's the first black female mayor of Zebulon. Does that stuff play into it? Did any of that hold you back? Did any of that drive you? Like, how do you feel whenever people talk about the race and gender issues with you?
It's facts. It's just facts. It is what it is. I'm the first female. I'm the first black female. But I'm Jessica. Okay. At the end of the day, I'm Jessica. I'm grateful. Let me not, I'm honored and I am grateful. We celebrated MLK Day yesterday, and I realized the blood, sweat, and tears that came before me and put in place for me to be in this place. And so I'll never take that for granted. I'll never not acknowledge. Yesterday I had to say some words, and one of the things that I said was, I know that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, because I know that there are people who fought very hard for me to be here. And so I never want to take that for granted. I know there were women that fought for equal rights just so that we can go to the polls and vote without our husband's permission, And so I don't take that lightly. I'm grateful to be the first woman, the first black woman to serve my community. But that doesn't make me who I am. Yes, I am a woman. Yes, I am a black woman, but I am a woman that was raised in this community. I'm a person that was raised in this community that loves my community and that wants to do best for my community. And I am also a black woman doing that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. I feel like it's the same answer over again. You can try and put you in a box, but you're not in the box. Yeah. You got to know how to color outside the lines.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just, when I became mayor, I remember telling my husband, okay, I got to polish up. I got to get myself together. He was like, no, you're not doing anything. He was like, you be you. He was like, you were elected because of who you are, because of what God has put inside of you. Let's not, change. And as I'm going through this, branding myself and all that, he's like, no, you are you, and you are here because of who you are. And so in all of that, I just try to remember who I am, what my family has put inside of me, who God has called me to be in everything that I do. And as long as I can keep that at the forefront of my mind, I'm just Jessica. And I'm so grateful. I grew up on the block. So hope y'all know what that means. But I did. And I'm grateful to be here, because if you look at the statistics, I'm not supposed to be here. Right. I grew up, on the block, literally. And so I've overcome a lot of obstacles to be here. And so what I'll never not be is grateful, but I am just the roundaway girl. And I love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people lose sight of that as soon as they start to get some sort of success, whatever that means to them, whether it's in the business space, now the social media space, politics, it doesn't matter. They start to get to a certain point, and then they, instead of being who they were that got them to that point, they try and be who everybody else wants them to be, and they lose themselves. And that's something that people tend to learn the hard way. That's you got to maintain yourself. You can still continue to grow and flourish and improve yourself, but you got to stay yourself.
Yeah. And you've got to, you hear so many times, like when you're leveling up or you're going in different, you can't take everyone with you. You can't take, and that's true. You can't, everyone can't go with you, but it's important to keep people around you that can keep you grounded. And that can keep you in a space where, like my husband is my best friend. And so he's going to keep me, as grounded as he possibly can. To know my mother is to know that she's also going to keep me very grounded. And so it's when you start doing these things, it's important to have a village that really supports you, and a village that you can just, I can go if I want to have an opportunity, as politics, you keep yourself out of the limelight. But so if I want to sit down and just chill out and hang out, then I have a village of people I can do that with. I have my siblings, my husband, my mom, and we can just all get in the house and we can hang out and we can eat a fat bat. I don't know if you know what that is, but and we can just hang out and just let the kids run around and I can just be. And oftentimes what I found is that sometimes I just need to be. Yeah. I was telling my husband as we were coming here this morning, like, hey, I think it's time for a vacation. We haven't had one in almost a year now. It's time to do something. And he was like, yeah, you're right. Because we like to be in places where we can just be, but having that village of support around you that allows you the opportunity to just be is essential. Yeah.
You've built your village, but what about like kind of casting people away from your village, like negativity? Have you had to deal with that? I'm sure.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm a very direct person. Very direct. It's my greatest strength and probably also one of my weaknesses. I'm very direct. And so I just don't have the capacity for negativity. I'm doing too much. There are too many moving parts in my life, and I like structure and I like pressing forward. And whenever I, encounter that negativity, I'm just like, hey, this is killing my energy. It's killing my vibe. I can't do you. And I will tell someone that this isn't really productive. This relationship isn't working for me. And I'm okay with that. And if they're not okay with that, that's not really my problem.
Right.
Sorry. But yeah, like I just don't, my biggest thing, honestly, is to protect my peace at all costs. I will sacrifice anything if it disturbs my peace. As someone that has struggled with maintaining peace and that has lived a life without peace before, and that has taken necessary steps to gain my peace back, I will never lose it again. And if that means cutting people off, cutting situations off, I am happy to do that, because life is too short to live uneasy and stressed out and to have people in your life that don't bring you good intentions and good energy. I just don't do that. I don't believe in that. And I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
I'm very serious about that. So.
You gotta be.
Yes.
You gotta be.
Yeah.
Negativity is so contagious.
Yeah, it is. And I have to protect my kids.
Yeah.
My family. I have young kids, and of course they're gonna go through life and they're gonna go through what they go through. But I have a daughter. I have one daughter and she's 8, and she's smart. She is her mother's daughter. And it's hard raising yourself, okay?
Yeah.
And I want her as a young woman and as a young Black woman, I want her to know how to have boundaries. I want her to know how to protect her peace and her mental health and all of those things. And in order for her to do it, I have to teach her and I have to show her. And it's important for me that she and my boys understand boundaries. Yeah.
That's great. When I had people trying to talk me into getting into politics in our community, and one of the things that they said to me was that the commissioners have the control and the mayor's just the face. but you decided to go from commissioner to running for mayor. Like, what played into that, and like how accurate is that statement?
People say that all the time, and it's always funny to me. The mayor doesn't vote.
Right.
Okay. So the mayor, sometimes the mayor actually does vote, depending on if they need to break a tie. What I will say for, a comment like that is, while the mayor doesn't vote all the time, our job as mayor is to lead our board, is to be there to develop our board, to bring the right things to the table so that our board can make smart choices. We're not just the face. We are leading. Right now I am alongside an incredible board of people. And each one of them have their own individual things that they're passionate about. And I know what each one of them are passionate about. And so it's my job to bring things to them, because I'm not an expert in everything. So there's one person on our board that is very good with housing affordability. And so anytime I have a meeting about affordable housing or anything like that, I bring that commissioner to the table with me so that I'm developing them, and so that we are leading our community and using the best resources and doing that. There's another commissioner that's huge on sustainability, that's huge on nature and making sure that our community has sustainable practices, not just, bees and trees, but sustainability, period. And so when I go talking to people about what they can bring, I'm bringing that commissioner with me. And so the mayor's job is to educate our community through our commissioners, and to be the voice and the liaison for the community to bring those resources. So yeah, I feel okay. I won't get on my soapbox, I'll step off, but I have strong feelings about that statement. So okay, I'll digress now.
So when you were a commissioner, I guess you were kind of an expert in the nonprofit space, and now you become a mayor and you become an expert in delegation. Is that a good way?
Absolutely. Delegation, and just as an executive leader, there are so many different pools, right now. And it's important to just understand that, like, you don't have to do everything. Even I had an invitation last week to be on a federal committee, and it will be a great opportunity for our community. But I don't have capacity to do that right now. So I sent it over to someone on my board. I can't do this, but I want to nominate you to do this because our community needs it. So understanding delegation and who can, literally on the way here this morning, I was invited to judge something for the Boys and Girls Club on a date that I'll be at a conference. I have someone already. I'm going to call them like, hey, this is your thing. Can you do this? So yes, being an expert at delegating and understanding who's stronger in this, or who could be developed more, or who wants this. Because sometimes they just, each person just wants to do something different. And I like building relationships so that I know my team well enough to know what strengths they can use to bring resources back to our community.
Great. So you get elected to be mayor of the big city, and you get paid all kinds of money, so you don't have to have a job anymore. How's that going?
I was sure my husband was falling out of his chair laughing at this point. The hardest part about this is being able to do it in a way that allows you to keep your financial brain mentality, sanity, financial sanity. That's what I'm looking for. Being a public service is definitely a sacrifice to a family, to a person, because, as mayor, I make $14,000 a year or something like that. Yeah, that's our stipend, because it's,
right.
And of that, I bring none of it home. Actually, I actually pay the town every month because my family has insurance. Okay. So yeah. So there's a great sacrifice that you know, a lot of people don't even realize that public servants are making huge sacrifices. Because if you want a leader, especially a mayor, to be the liaison, to be the person. I'm sitting down next week with our congresswoman to talk about what Zebulon needs. I sit down in a week or two with a senator. You know, if you really want a mayor that's going to really be the voice, be the liaison, be the delegate of the community, it's impossible to do it on a part-time basis. It's just not. I mean, you can try, but you're not going to be getting everything that you could be getting, or you're not. I feel like I needed to be here full time in this space so that I can bring the resources that our community needs, and so that the staff, our administration, and our community knows that they elected someone that's going to show up for the people. And I can't show up to everything because, again, I have 3 kids that do a lot of stuff. Yeah. But for all that I can, I show up. And the financial piece is something that honestly we're still working through. It is not. It's not easy, but you make a sacrifice, you figure it out, and, you know, sometimes you call your parents and you move on. and so, you know, we do what we have to do. The biggest thing for me is, as long as my kids have what they need and they want, all of what they need, half of what they want.
There you go.
All of what they need, half of what they want. That's our motto in our house. All of what you need, half of what you want. And so as long as my kids are good, you know, my husband and I, we make sacrifices, and we try to ensure that the sacrifices we make don't affect our kids in a negative way. And as long as we can do that and teach them what it means to be investors, to be, you know, good stewards of your money, to be good stewards of people and time, that's just what we do. And we're okay with that. Yeah.
So then, becoming mayor, you had to leave your previous job and decided to go back into being an entrepreneur, getting back into your business. What was different about this time? Like, what did you guys do different? How did you plan different? Like, how is it going to be successful this time?
That was the key word you just said, plan. We planned it. It wasn't every move that we have made. It has been strategic and planned in a way that allows us to show up in the spaces that we need to show up. Leaving my full-time position was more of a choice for me, and some other different things happening there. But this gave me the opportunity as being mayor to have better alignment, honestly. So I can show up for my community. I can show up for my business and for my business partner in a way that puts me there fully. And I'm not worried about doing what I do for my company for someone else full time, because it just really didn't make a lot of sense, honestly. And so now we have a plan. We have executed a plan. We've met with people like your amazing self that understood, you know, the business aspect of what we were doing. And so now we have a better structure in place that we've worked, you know, a few years on putting it in place, so that once we came out, because now we're booming again and we're like, oh, okay, that escalated quickly again, but we're ready this time. Like, we have the tools that now that we're getting, you know, literally signing a contract every week. And now that we're in this space, we are so much more prepared than we were before, because we took 2 years to create a plan where we could be successful and it wouldn't overtake us and overwhelm us.
Okay. Are you still a nonprofit?
So we do still have our nonprofit arm that where we help, because we are a marketplace ministry, we're pastors as well. And so we will always have our nonprofit because we believe in helping families. That is our God-given divine assignment. So we have our nonprofit, which is called the Family Foundation, but our for-profit business is called THI, or the Harrison Institution. My husband doesn't like when I abbreviate it because it takes his name out. So THINC is our for-profit nonprofit leadership and development firm. And so that's what we do, where we go in, we work with nonprofits, we work with leadership to help them scale up their leadership, to connect with their employees better, to build sustainable companies, because sustainability is all about the people. And when you build relationship with people, then you build sustainable companies. And so we teach leaders how to work with their employees, and we also teach them how to, if they're going out into, sales or whatever, how to work with other people, how to build relationships. And so that's our for-profit business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you find those clients? And I guess what steps did you take to put yourself out there to find the clients and show them that you're the one that they can trust with, their business, their life, their intimate details of their life?
Yeah. A lot of it, honestly, word of mouth. And because we are in the nonprofit, in the leadership realm, literally all the time, you run into business owners. As far as, the nonprofit development part, we are in that area a lot. And so we understand the need that nonprofits have to scale up their organizations, but sometimes a lack of funding. And so our company, we offer fractional support. So it's based on, what does your budget say? How can we help you? And we tailor it to what they need and to what they can afford. Now, we don't do anything for free. But we do tailor packages because, you have different organizations that are looking for different things. And so, right now we have 2 contracts where we are working, where they're a development person. So we're helping them raise money. One has a major project and one is just she's never had donor relationships before. And so just understanding the ins and outs of that. And we're helping those organizations just to scale up in a way that they can continue it once we're no longer, if we're no longer a part of their organization.
Okay. What about, we're kind of in the same space with consulting, but you find that especially small businesses and nonprofits that are just starting, they don't feel like they have the money to be able to afford. How do you justify them spending their money that they don't really have to learn how to do it a different way?
Yeah. So the way we justify it is, one, we show them our proven results because we have proven results, but understanding if you don't take that risk, is the word risk again, if you don't take the risk, you have to invest. You have to invest in your company's success. And if you are, going out and hiring a consultant to come in, first you make sure it's a reputable consultant. And then it's really, once you get in the door and you understand, so we don't just take on any clients, right? So the clients that we take on have to be in alignment with our vision and our mission of our company. We don't just take anyone. And so helping those organizations understand that our alignment must match and that we believe in their mission. If I can believe in your organization's mission, I can help scale up your organization. But if I don't really get it and it's really not my thing, then it's not someone that we would take on. And so having those conversations with business owners that we're certainly not in it for the money, but we're in it to ensure, because nonprofit is all about community resources, all about passion and people doing the work that they feel like they've been called to do. And so if we can sit down and help a nonprofit ask those questions, then we can help them understand how this investment is going to help their mission be sustained for however long they want it to be sustained for.
What would you say to a business owner that's in a space where they should probably be a nonprofit instead of a for-profit business, but they're afraid to do it because they don't understand it or they think there's no money in nonprofit?
Someone asked me that question 2 weeks ago about we have a nonprofit, but we can't make money. And I'm like, but you can. And it's not about making money. A lot of nonprofits have this idea that, they can't hire employees and everything that they do has to be free. Not true, friends. So what we try to do is help understand, once you know your mission and your vision, then you can create a framework that gives you tools, that gives you a plan for funding? Does that look like grants? Does that look like, a lot of times, and this is a little expert coming out, a nonprofit, you have this grant money, but you really don't want to fully be grant funded. You really want to have your nonprofit to be 100% private donations and different things like that, because it's more sustainable than grants, because grants are, they're grants. Yep. And so helping nonprofits to understand that you can, I've worked for a nonprofit that, had a budget of $2 million. I've worked for one that has a budget of 1.4, different nonprofits have different budgets, but you just have to know what you want to do. When you have to have a program within that organization where people can speak to and that they want to give to. And so that's all a part of what we do.
How important is personal branding to you, and how important has it been in your journey to separate you from the different businesses that you've been involved in, or separating who you are from the mayor title?
Yeah. Personal branding for me is very important, even in the different spaces that I'm in, as far as the political world, the nonprofit world, the pastoral world, the family, mom. My brand is simply to ensure that I am who I am in the pastoral role, in the mayor role, in the mommy role. If my brand is truly my brand, then it shouldn't change from role to role. And I ensure that I have consistency across my brands. Especially my brand is trust, relationship building, integrity. That's just who I am. And in every space that I'm in, I ensure that I have a consistent message in my branding. Yeah.
How much has social media played into building that brand?
A great deal. A great deal. Social media has probably been the catalyst of my brand. It's so funny. I was actually speaking to a branding consultant this morning on my way here. Because I'm getting to a point now that I am getting asked to do a lot of speaking engagements, keynote speakers, different things like that. And I love, that is my joy, to speak and to encourage people. And so in doing that, I want to make sure that I am represented in that, right? And so I want to ensure that the brand speaks for itself. Social media has allowed me to show people who I am and give them a window into who I am. But if you look at my social media, it's consistent. It's consistent across the board. I could tighten up a little bit. But it's consistent across the board. And I just want to ensure that it stays that way. Yeah. But social media has been a huge, huge part of it. Yeah.
So normally I ask for like general advice to speak to the public, but this one I'm going to ask you for advice specifically for me, because one of our other companies, our utility company, it's our largest company. We have specific clients that we work with. So there's no sales, there's no branding. We have a website just to be legitimate. Mm-hmm. And now I'm moving into this space where everything is all about my brand. And, until what's today, 205, until 205 days ago, I had a Facebook page, no other social media. Mm-hmm. Like, what should I be focused on, or what should I be doing to help build my brand?
I would say for you, like, you're so cool, right? You're so laid back, and like you have a welcoming spirit about yourself, right? And so I would just say, as far as your brand is, just be consistent in every space that you're in. You have your company, and then now you're moving into this amazing podcast that you're doing. And I think that, but everything is in alignment. You're a business owner that's helping other business owners be better business owners, because you're a good business owner. It's a circle, right? Right. And so your consistent brand and your alignment pretty much speaks for itself. So the same thing you would post, I would say the same thing. I am not a branding expert, and my branding lady is probably like, be quiet, but I'm not. I would just say, in every space that you're in, you're just you, whether it's your podcast, your company, but you are you, and you are your brand.
Right.
Yeah.
What what do you think is, or like, how do you decide who you're going to hire to help you? You said like your branding lady, or like, how do you find people to come in and know where to spend resources instead of figuring out for yourself?
So I'm very frugal. My husband might not think so when it comes to shoes, but I feel like I'm very frugal. And so typically I take my time. There are certain things that I need. I have an image, like graphic person, company that I work with, and the owner of that company he's very aggressive when it comes to my images being on different flyers and stuff. He just sent me a contract this weekend to say no more allowing people to put your pictures on flyers without my approval first. And I was like, okay. But he cares about my brand. He cares about my likeness. And so I pay attention to people who care about my brand and my likeness and the way others are putting me out there. And so when I look for people on who we're going to spend our resources on, I make sure I don't just say that person. I take months before we decide who we're going to bring in, because I have to make sure that person is in alignment with what we care about in our mission. The person that I recently worked with for my brand, she's someone I've watched for years. Literally, I've watched for years. And now that I'm at that point where I'm ready to take this next step, I knew that it was her. I knew that she was the person, because after I've watched her for a year, I'm like, I know that she can be the person that can hear me and can take it and run with it. So it's all about communicating, trust, and just my discernment for people.
How has your leadership style changed over the years? And what are some things that you've learned along the way that have helped shape you?
My leadership style has changed over the years. I used to be a very laid back leader, but one that needed to have my hands in everything. So not necessarily a micromanager, but just wanted to have some input. I'm not that person ever. I'm a master delegator now.
Yeah.
And so my leadership has changed over the years because I've taken time to lead through relationships. I feel like I'm an ambivert, right? So introvert and extrovert all mixed up in one ball. This is very unique. And so in that, I like people, love people, but I really don't. And so I'm like, oh, you're talking to me again. But I'm good in social. Like I'm still a very good social person. And so in my leadership, I have learned how to build relationships with people to the point where I can respect their boundaries, where I can respect their work habits, where I can respect their whatever they're going through. And I think that makes me a good leader because I take time to get to know the people that I am leading. And, John Maxwell said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I truly believe that, and I lead with that as at the forefront of my mind.
Networking, you said you're a master at networking as well. How do you go about networking, and are there any groups that you've been a part of that have really helped you?
I think networking is something that you do every single day, or you can do. I network in the grocery store. I talk to, and again, ambivert for really, but I talk to people. So I can be anywhere and I will network. I will talk to people because you never know who you're talking to, who you could run into, and what resources or what support they could bring you. And so I'm a part of so many different things. My greatest organization that I'm a part of is Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to the Zetas. Happy belated Founders Day. But outside of networking, just in different conferences or things like that, I believe that you network every day and all the time. Grocery store, convenience store, you never know who you're talking to or who you could run into. You are literally one yes away from living your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
I agree with that. It's like, I get asked, like, how do you find these amazing people to talk to? And it's like, because they're everywhere. And I ask. If you just ask, like, everybody has a story. If you can find somebody authentic with a good story, then it's an easy 2-hour conversation.
Yes.
There's no problem there.
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. We appreciate everybody for watching. We appreciate the growth that we're seeing. We're getting amazing guests. We still need to get a little bit more reach to keep this momentum going. So help us out. Drop a comment, like, follow, subscribe, share if you love the content. Help us continuing to get amazing guests with amazing stories and help those stories get around the world like they should be. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. How do you handle pressure and high visibility in the public?
Handle pressure?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like
you're under a lot of pressure all the time, I'm sure. Or like people try and put you under pressure. Like, how do you keep from like feeling the pressure, caving to it, and stay centered, I guess?
Not to get too holy, but I'm holy, so all of my help comes from God. I don't allow anyone to put undue pressure. I can do what I can and I can't what I can't. I don't feed into that, and I know that a lot of times that, people want things done when they want things done, especially when you're over an entire community, but I can only do what I can do. And I have a foundation rooted in my spiritual walk and in my relationship with Christ that I truly believe whatever I can do, I'm going to do. I'm going to do for you. There are so many people within my circle, administration. We have an incredible town staff that if I can't do it, someone can do it, right? And so I make sure that the pressures that come along with this job, I don't allow them to overtake me, because I utilize the resources that I can. I send people to where I can if I can't help them, and I do the best that I can do. Because that pressure can really damage you. It can kill you if you allow it to.
Yeah.
And I am, again, I said earlier, I'm very big on protecting my peace. I'm a servant. I have a servant's heart, and I will do anything I can for people, but not at my own expense, right? And so while the pressures of this entire being a leader, they always come, I'm intentional about knowing like my limits. I'm very in tune to myself and knowing my limits. And I have a great therapist. Let me just say. She's amazing. And she sees me quite often. So we make sure that we get any kind of things. I talk to people. I have an amazing support system. My husband, I know I talk about my husband all the time, but he is, my right, my left, my up. He's my rock. So in those times where sometimes the pressure does get me, my husband is always that ground and that rock that kind of brings me back and walks me through and talks me through how to, alleviate some of that.
Yeah, we're already seeing a common theme on here where some of the most successful people talk about their relationship with God because it's something important. And I'll say the same thing I say every time is that like some people get turned off by that word, or they don't understand it, or they're afraid to commit to something like that. And there's a freedom in knowing that you don't control everything. Mm-hmm. And whatever you want to call that higher power or that spirituality, as soon as you let go of that thing where you're like, oh, I can control and manipulate everything in my life to make it go a certain direction.
Yeah.
You find this sense of freedom where now you open yourself up to all these opportunities and all these things outside of yourself and relationships. So there's something to be said for that.
Absolutely. There's so much possibility in the world. And when we confine ourselves to our ability to do it, we will miss so much, because I believe that I don't have the power to do anything, but if I trust in the higher power, which is God and Jesus in my home, then I can do anything. I truly believe in exceedingly and abundantly. I believe that that I was not put here to go to work, get off work, go home, cook dinner, take the kids. That's not, I believe that there's so much more to life. And so when I think about the pressures of life, or I think about the obstacles that come our way, they're going to come too. And there's nothing I can do about it. The only thing that I can do is the way I react. My reaction to whatever comes my way is the only thing I can control. And if I can't, my reaction and my perspective, and if I can keep those two things at the forefront, then I can go out and I can truly believe that this world of possibilities is really mine. It's really up for grabs. Like, I can have it. Yeah.
With all your positivity and everything that's working for you, what do you have to say to somebody that's like stuck in that daily grind, afraid to make that next step, but they really want to try and be an entrepreneur or chase a passion? What advice do you give to them?
You're like, in all your positivity, lady. Miss Positive Penny over here. Honestly, so I gave a message a few weeks ago, and it was along those same lines. And not to quote Nike or anything, cut that out. We don't want them to get no. Okay. Just do it. Like, take the risk, take the chance, take the lead. Do it in good faith. Do it in knowing that there's no way that you can take a risk or take a chance without a sacrifice. There's going to be a sacrifice somewhere. Careful not to sacrifice your family or, the most important things, but understanding that there is a sacrifice. We've made a lot of sacrifices for me to even be sitting here talking to you today. But even in that, do it scared, do it unsure, do it with a plan, though. Please have a plan. Don't be like me. Do it with a plan, but just do it. The only thing you can get is a yes, a no, or a not right now. Either way, you can say I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think do it for a reason and know your reason is super
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we covered a whole variety of things today. Is there anything that we missed or skipped over that you want to spend more time on?
Nothing that I can think of. I don't think. No.
Okay. We'll jump into a couple rapid fire questions. If anybody live has any questions, then go ahead and drop those in. Let's see. Best advice you've ever gotten or ignored?
Best advice I've ever gotten or ignored. The best advice that I have ever gotten is to show up. And that means so many different things to so many different people, but show up. Show up for yourself. Show up for the people that you care about, the people that care about you. Show up. Show up unapologetically as yourself. And that's, like it or love it, that's what I do. I show up, and I show up unapologetically me. That's it. Yeah.
What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about your role?
The most is that I can change everything just by myself. Like, you just come and say, hey, put up a 4-way stop right here, and I can just go and do it. It does not work like that.
What are some of your favorite local small business shout outs?
Ooh, my favorite local, Norse Brewing in Zebulon. There's also one in Wake Forest, but the one in Zebulon. Creative Cup. So many good ones. I shop at Food Line and Cabera Foods all the time. So Creative Cup, Norse Brewing, and I want to do one more. I'll say Ribsational. It's a food truck in Zebulon.
You like that one?
I don't know them. Did you see my husband?
Yeah, you like that one.
It is a food truck in Zebulon. They if you've not had ribs that just fall off the bone and are delicious, made by some good people, please try Ribsational in Zebulon.
Okay.
Yes, they're amazing.
Try that one out. Book, podcast, or mentor recommendations?
Book, podcast, or mentor recommendations. Stay Broke podcast. Duh.
That's right.
Books. I read a lot of spiritual books. The one that most recently that I read was by Yvonne Orji. What's the title of that book? It's Yvonne Orji. It's her kind of biography of her life. And it is really, really good. Bamboozled by Jesus. It's such a good book. Such a good read. I don't really listen to a lot of other podcasts. So, and actually my husband and I wrote a book recently. It's a marriage, kind of a marriage help book, and it's called Brace for Impact, A Collision Called Love. It's by Tori and Jessica Harrison, and it is available on Amazon.
Perfect.
Anytime. Thanks over there. And for everyone listening, my husband's in the corner throwing out little hints for me. But yes, absolutely. We actually we have our own where we talk marriage and family, our nonprofit, and so we base it kind of on the chapters of our books, and we'll be releasing one on Valentine's Day, just kind of talking about marriage, family, partnership, longevity, what all that looks like. And yeah, so we hope that will inspire and restore some things that maybe couples have lost. That's our hope.
Amazing. What's one habit that you swear by?
One habit that I swear by, making my bed first thing in the morning. My husband said that's yours, not mine. That is one habit. I just think that I don't care how messy your room is. If your bed is made, your room is clean. That is, and that is one habit that I have. That's a habit. Pet peeves are closed cabinets in my kitchen. So when my husband and I get into any kind of disagreement and he gets upset with me, what he'll do is he'll go in the kitchen and he'll open up every cabinet in the kitchen. Drives me bananas. Isn't that childish though? Like, who does that? Like, it's grown man. He'll go out and I'm like, dude. And so, I think it was one time I was like, I'm not speaking to you. You make me sick sometimes. And he went in the kitchen, opened up all the cabinets and left for work. And he knew that would make me talk. I was like, you! And he was like, I love you too. So what's for dinner? So, habits, pet peeves. I have all kinds of things. But yeah, making my bed, it makes me feel better. And just doing things that can relax and calm you. I like to color. I'll get a good coloring book, but only with Crayola. Okay. Coloring supplies. So
my wife does a lot of that too.
Yeah.
But there's psychology behind making the bed in the morning. It's the starting your day off with a small win or a small victory. Yes. And they say that that's supposed to help motivate you for the rest of the day.
See? Okay, everyone, make your beds in the morning.
I'm terrible about that.
Oh, goodness.
All right, so going into our closing, one lesson for small business owners right now.
Get a business coach. Go to someone that has done it before, know what it looks like. Go and advocate for yourself to someone that has done it before that can help you. That is an extremely important part of business. Don't try to do it all by yourself. Do not try to do it all by yourself. While you have a great vision, you have purpose, you have passion, you do not know everything. And starting a business by yourself, if you've never been in the business entrepreneur world, it can be very stressful, and it can add a lot of pressure if you don't have the right person that can guide you and lead you. Yeah.
And that reminded me of one thing that I don't want to skip over. In Zebulon, somebody's starting up a small business. What are some resources that are available for them, and where's the first place they should go before they start the business? The
first place they should go before they start the business is our Chamber of Commerce. Our Zebulon Chamber of Commerce has a plethora of resources that they can provide new business owners, people to looking to start businesses. There are companies within the chamber. There are nonprofits. There are nonprofit development firms. There are people. They have cohorts. Our Chamber of Commerce, as well as our town, does a entrepreneur cohort where they teach local business owners or people who want to be entrepreneurs how to start their businesses, how to create a business plan. It's a partnership that we have through Wake Tech. And so it's an amazing opportunity, but our Chamber of Commerce is our business hub where people can go and get all kinds of information.
Okay. Are there any other resources that are less known in the Zebulon community for small businesses?
As far as like business development companies or anything
Sure,
like
just
that?
anything.
None right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. How can people find you, follow along in your journey? Anything else you want to shout out? Shout out your book again.
Yes, shout out the book again, Brace for Impact. Brace for Impact is a partnership through our nonprofit, which is called the Family Foundation. The Family Foundation is a nonprofit organization that supports marriages, people who are looking to get married or those that have been married for 10 years or less with one or more children. We support them by coaching, by providing advocacy for students in schools, different things like that. We have also our podcast that comes out, will start coming out twice a month in February. And that it's just us talking about, some of the tricks, some of the ins and outs of marriages. This is our ministry part of our leg of our company. And then the Harrison Institute, or THINC, the Harrison Institution, is our for-profit company that we do nonprofit development and leadership, our nonprofit development and leadership firm, where we work with missionally aligned nonprofits to help them develop their organization and take their organization to the next step. And so in everything that we do, we believe in leadership, we believe in relationship, and we believe in pushing people to their purpose. And that's what we do.
What about social media? So they can follow along?
Follow us on social media. We have the Harrison Institution, Family Foundation, or you can follow Mayor Jessica Daniels Harrison or Jessica Daniels Harrison on all social media platforms. Those are our names. Yep. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of those. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. So type in our name. Yes. So we're branding. We're going to have a more consistent message across all of those. But right now we are on all of the platforms and we put out content in as much as we can.
Okay. And then we end every episode the same way, because when I figured out my definition, it changed how I run my businesses in my life. How do you define success?
I define success by... That's a good question. I define success by, I don't know. That's a hard question.
You can think about it for a second. We don't give this one ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't like it. How do you define success? I need help. I define success by, I don't know. I have no answer for that.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
So what I learned for me is that I was chasing the wrong things and chasing money. And once I figured out that owning a bunch of businesses and all that stuff didn't affect me in a positive way, that I don't understand really what happiness means. I struggle with that, but I find the most joy out of watching the other people that have helped me build what I have, enjoying the things that we've built together. So making sure that my employees are happy, watching them enjoying what we've built together, making sure that I can chase my kids' dreams with them, traveling around the world with my daughter so she could do jujitsu, having the time to do that, and then having a stable home as well.
That's great. All right, what you said. Yeah, so I would say for me, I would define success by just not monetary at all, but put purpose and people in their purpose. Right now I'm successful because my kids are happy, they're healthy, and they have all of what they need and half of what they want. For me, that is successful. Knowing that, I wake up every morning beside my best friend and a partner that believes in me and that pushes me to be the best version of myself that I can be, that's success for me. Knowing that I'm leading a community that made me. Listen, this is a community that, that I went and used food stamps to get groceries, cash my mom's child support checks because that was the only way we were going to eat. Had my first job Sometimes had to warm up water because we couldn't afford to have the heat, the hot water. Like, this is the community that made me. And understanding that I am leading this community it's not about title, it's not about clout, it's about investing in a community that invested so much in me. And for me, that's success. Creating a community that my kids can be proud to live in, that's success for me. And so, I struggled a little bit to answer that question because, it can be tricky. But when I think about success, I think about, am I fulfilled? How do I feel on the inside? And in this very moment, in these dynamics that I'm currently in, I feel successful. So that's what defines it for me.
I knew you could do it. That was a great way
job.
to end it.
Great job.
Great way to end it. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. And I am happy to come back anytime.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.